In a world shaped by shifting alliances, global power struggles, and emerging ideologies, one nation continues to attract global attention: America. But admiration is not always universal. In 2025, anti-American sentiment is rising in multiple corners of the globe, driven not just by politics, but also by history, economics, and cultural dominance. Welcome to News Nexus, your window into the global pulse. Before we explore the list, it's important to understand what fuels anti-Americanism in today's world. It goes beyond disapproval of US foreign policy. It includes dissatisfaction with military interventions, perceived cultural imperialism, corporate dominance, and economic inequality. Public opinion polls, media narratives, and grassroots movements around the world send a clear message. Many countries are not merely criticizing the US, they are actively distancing themselves from it. So, which countries are experiencing the most significant surge in anti-American sentiment in 2025? Let's take a closer look. At number 10, we begin close to home: Mexico. Despite being a key trade partner, tensions are flaring once again. New border policies and waves of deportations under stricter US immigration enforcement have reignited nationalist sentiment. Anti-American protests have increased in Mexico City and in border towns, fueled by perceptions of disrespect toward Mexican sovereignty. An increasing number of young Mexicans now view the US as an unreliable neighbor rather than a trusted ally. In Germany, discontent has deepened. While a longtime ally through NATO, Germany is facing growing internal divisions. The US's continued pressure for increased military spending, along with past spying scandals and ongoing trade frictions, has strained public perception. Polling shows a 15% increase in negative views of the US since 2023. Many Germans, especially younger generations, see America as out of step with European values on climate action, diplomacy, and digital privacy. Pakistan has long had a complicated relationship with the United States, marked by military aid, drone strikes, and fluctuating trust. In 2025, that relationship remains fragile. US criticism of Pakistan's handling of extremism and democratic reforms has sparked renewed resentment. Anti-American rhetoric is widespread on Pakistani social media platforms, and US involvement is increasingly viewed as interference. Meanwhile, China's growing influence through the Belt and Road Initiative has further marginalized US relevance in the region. Turkey, a NATO ally, continues to drift away from the West under President Erdogan's increasingly authoritarian leadership. Anti-American sentiment is rising due to US support for Kurdish groups and perceptions of interference in Turkey's domestic affairs. In 2025, both state-controlled and independent Turkish media frequently criticize US policy. Washington's reluctance to approve key defense deals has been interpreted as a betrayal by many Turkish citizens. Russia remains one of the most overtly hostile nations toward the United States. Following escalating cyber conflicts, sanctions, and NATO's continued expansion, anti-Americanism is now mainstream in Russian political and social discourse. Russian state media portrays the US as a declining empire clinging to its former global dominance. Recent polls show that over 80% of Russians hold unfavorable views of the US, the highest level in decades. Decades of conflict, sanctions, and propaganda have embedded anti-American sentiment into Iran's national identity. In 2025, that sentiment is more deeply rooted than ever. US sanctions are widely blamed for ongoing inflation, unemployment, and shortages in critical sectors such as healthcare. Iranian leaders routinely invoke anti-American themes to rally domestic support, especially as nuclear negotiations remain stalled. A more surprising entry is South Africa. Historically neutral, the country is now witnessing a rise in anti-American sentiment. Driving this shift are frustrations over economic inequality, historical exploitation, and growing alignment with fellow BRICS nations. University protests and research papers increasingly portray U.S. corporations as modern symbols of neo-colonialism. Washington's perceived indifference to African priorities has further fueled public frustration. Years of U.S.-led sanctions and regime change efforts have made Venezuela one of the most anti-American countries in the Western Hemisphere. In 2025, that sentiment has only hardened. Many Venezuelans blame the United States for their ongoing economic crisis. While some members of the opposition support re-engagement with the U.S., both the government and large segments of the population remain deeply distrustful. Not surprisingly, North Korea ranks second. The regime's entire narrative is built on anti-Americanism, portraying the U.S. as a hostile, imperial force. In 2025, relations remain icy. With new missile tests and continued joint U.S.-South Korea military exercises, Pyongyang has stepped up its hostile rhetoric. North Korean media consistently portrays the U.S. as its principal adversary. At number 1 is China. As the world's second-largest economy, China is also home to one of the fastest-growing anti-American movements. The U.S.-China rivalry has intensified dramatically in 2025, with flashpoints including Taiwan, technological competition, and military tensions in the South China Sea. Chinese state media routinely criticizes the United States for hypocrisy on human rights and democracy. Online campaigns promote boycotts of American goods and services, while nationalist influences paint the U.S. as a fading global power. Surveys in major Chinese cities reveal a sharp decline in favorable opinions of America, particularly among the younger generation. What do these trends mean for America's future on the global stage? From soft power to strategic diplomacy, the United States faces growing skepticism. While America still maintains key alliances, it must now navigate an increasingly fragmented and critical international landscape. In many nations, anti-Americanism is no longer just political. It is personal, cultural, and historical. To address these growing divides, a deeper understanding of each country's unique context is essential, especially for those who believe that cooperation is more powerful than confrontation. Thanks for watching News Nexus. If you found this video informative, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Let us know your thoughts in the comments. Do you believe this wave of anti-American sentiment is temporary or part of a deeper, global realignment? Until next time, stay curious and stay informed.